the talk this week, or actually in this month, is going to be based on the stories, The Mastery of Love. It's another book by Don Miguel Ruiz. For many of you know, he wrote the Four Agreements. And I picked it up and I was so struck by some of the stories in here because I wanted us to start looking at what love means to us. What do we really identify with love? What are all the feelings? I was talking to a friend of mine recently about the difference between definitions and connotations. And if you understand, definition is what usually shows up in Webster's dictionary. Connotation is the way we use it and the way it has meaning to it. And quite often the meanings even have emotions tied into it. And the word love has plenty of emotions tied into it. And so we think about love a whole different way. Well, February is the month of love. And last year we used the Joyful Journal as a theme throughout the year. And I wanted to use a quote from there to start this one off. Opening line in the Joyful Journal for the month of February is, relationships are our soul assignments. Relationships are our soul's assignments. They are our life course to develop a deep self-awareness if we choose to pay attention. They create optimal opportunities for personal growth. There are no accidental encounters. If you think about that, whenever you think about forgiveness, one of the things I teach about forgiveness is those people are in your life to take you to a deeper awareness of who you truly are. So rather than have a lot of animosity, you might appreciate them. You may not want to hang out with them, but you might want to appreciate them because they are actually doing something for you. They're doing it, helping you have a realization and a healing within yourself. Because everything about us, what we believe and what we teach, is really about an inside job. You are the power. You are the power that makes it all happen. And part of tying into the mastery of love is this month, the daily guides are written by a good friend of mine, Eugene Holden, who is our World Ministry of Prayer. And what I've come to know, I've known Eugene now for probably 10 years. He is a deep, soulful person who lives and walks his talk. He is of consciousness. And if you have a chance to read any of the daily guides, I think you will find they're quite moving and they're realistic. So I wanted to start off this talk with one that comes, I think it's tomorrow's, February 2nd, and it's called Trust. And what he quotes John 4:18 from the Bible. We do quote the Bible in science. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. And when we talk about perfect love, we're talking about unconditional love. Many of us love and want to be loved with conditions. And of course, we don't want to say it that way because it makes us seem needy. And perhaps we might be with a little bit of conditional love. Unconditional love is something where you just love regardless of appearances, regardless of what somebody else does. You just love them, no matter what. So what he talks about in here is to deepen our faith, we must first recognize that we have faith. Faith is a principle that we use, and sometimes use it consciously and sometimes use it unconsciously. And I love the example he gives. Because what he says in here is you may have heard someone affirm his faith in an illness by saying, "Oh, it's the flu season again. I always get the flu." What about the choice is, I haven't had the flu in years. I never get the flu. I know I'm healthy. But what we do is we're always at choice. And what I find amazing is many of us, and I put myself in that camp, we go to the negative rather than the positive. And you know, it's an on and off switch. You can go either way you choose. And so he says, as we cultivate a trust in the law of good, we soon realize it takes a deep and abiding love to stand in the knowing, trusting our good is at hand. It's our faith in knowing our good is at hand. When we know that, we can choose positive. Remember, perfect love casts out all fear. When we are in love, living from love, speaking from love, working from love, we notice that there is no fear. It is this love that beckons us to have faith. This love is the source of all life. So that I'm actually setting you up a little bit. Because it's about having faith, and it's about having trust, and it's about love. And one of the stories that really appealed to me in here, and it was a title that I picked for the talk here today, is The Man Who Didn't Believe in Love. Now, if you ask many people around here, and you ask them, do you believe in love? Most people would say yes. Even if they don't have it in their lives, they would say yes. He did not. He said, no, I do not believe in love. Love is for poets and religions to manipulate you. Love doesn't exist because love is like a drug addict. When you need love, you are like an addict. The person who is in a relationship with you who does not need love but gives you love is your supplier. Feeding your addiction. And what happens about a drug addict and addiction and the supplier is you live in fear of having your source withdrawn. You are placing your reliance on somebody else to satisfy your need, your addiction. So he went around and he told people that he just did not believe in it. It was just something made up. And for many more details, I invite you to get the book or read it online or whatever, because it's really a captivating story. And I think it speaks to the truth of many of our experiences. So what he went around talking to many people, and he didn't find a lot of people that agreed with him until one time at a meeting he ran into this woman who said, I don't believe in love either. And he said, oh wow, I've never run into anybody like you before. Everybody always tries to talk me out of it. Why don't you believe in love? And she said, well, when I was young, I fell in love with my high school sweetheart. And we were in love. And we made these vows on our wedding day to honor and cherish in sickness and health, through bad times and good times. She said, but as life unfolded and the children arrived and life threw up challenges, those vows were not honored. He did not honor them. I did not honor them. Therefore, love does not exist. So the two of them started to find out, as they explored this much more, how much in common they had. They started hanging out together. They became good friends. They believed that their love was not existent between them. Until one time, he went on a trip. And he is sitting there and realized how much fun and enjoyment he had when he was with this woman. They just hung out. And he thought, what is it that this is not the love that poets write about? He said, I miss her because I enjoy being with her. And why do I enjoy being with her? And I just want to read a couple of things because they're so important. He says, I'm not responsible for her. I don't take anything from her. I don't have the need for her to take care of me. I don't need to blame her for my difficulties or take my dramas. We have the best time together. We enjoy each other. I respect the way she thinks, the way she feels. I don't feel jealous when she's with other people. I don't feel envy when she is successful. Perhaps love does exist, but it's not what I thought it was. And I think it's really important. The reason I wanted to read those things is quite often the reverse of all his statements are true for us when we make conditions about love. We want somebody to feel for us. We're expecting something to be coming towards us. And that's an addiction. We're looking for something to come inside of us. And why is that? Because we don't feel we have the light within inside of us, because we don't feel I have the love. Because if we know that we have the love within us and it shines out and goes out, what we know about a reciprocal universe is we give out love, we get love back. But it's a reciprocation, but we don't need it. It just reciprocates on its own way. It's its own source. So what happened is he's sitting there thinking about all these things and the new definition, and he goes out into the moonlight, and he's in a remote spot without many city lights, so he can see the stars. And he starts focusing on one particular star, and he's thinking about this love for this woman in all of these non-attachment ways. And the star comes down from the universe and comes right down to him until he merges with the star. It's an absolute miracle. He is merged with the star. And he has incredible joy and happiness. And he says, wow, there's so much happiness here and love in the star. And that's a miracle. And so he rushes home to this woman and he gives her the star, which contains a happiness. And for a moment she looks at him and she drops it. And it shatters in a million pieces. So the story is, what happened here? Because what happened is the two of them then separated, went their own ways. What happened? Whose mistake was it that the star was dropped? Whose mistake was it that there was no longer that bond between these two people? And some of you may think it is the woman who dropped the star. But in reality, it was the man who made the mistake. Because when he held the non-attachment of love, he gave from inside, she gave from inside. There was nothing pulling to make them whole, like when people say, my better half. So there was nothing. So when he gave his happiness and gave it to her, she felt responsible for his happiness. That was a burden she could not hold and contain, so she let it drop and it shattered. Because she knew she could not be responsible for his happiness. She did not really know what he was thinking. When we're in love, we sometimes think we know what the other people are thinking, but assume makes fill out the blank, you know. In reality, we never know what the other person's thinking until we ask them what they're thinking, and they give us an answer which only has a nanosecond of life, because they may change their mind after they've said it. But when we make somebody else responsible for our happiness, we have entered into the drug addiction. And she didn't want to go there. So she dropped it. And then he became the man once again who did not believe in love. Our thoughts are powerful. Our thoughts create. Our thoughts create our drama, and we can accept the lessons or we continue to live the life we believe, and when we believe love doesn't exist, it will not exist in your life. It cannot be otherwise. The law works. The law of attraction works. It works without a doubt. So I say that because many of us search out partners looking for somebody to complete us. But if you believe you're whole, perfect, and complete as it is, why are you looking for somebody to complete you? You don't need anybody. We are a tribe community. We love association. But don't give your power away. Always know that happiness is an inside job. I tell you, I speak up here from truth, and I had to learn that late in life. That happiness is an inside job. So when I finally learned it, I'd been hit over the head enough times by the truth that I finally got it, and it sticks. And I love teaching that thought, because when you look outside of yourself, you're giving your power away. When you're angry with somebody, you're giving your power away. Forgiveness is the greatest gift you give yourself, because you take your power back. You let go of the attachment. When you're angry at somebody, you're giving all that power for that person to describe how you feel. It's up to you. The love is inside. And the love I'm talking about is not just love with relationships. It's easy to talk about love for relationships because people tend to think in couples terms. But love is unconditional. Love is a community. Love are people. Love is just living life. Living life fully, and can live it with truth. And so, there's another thing in here I wanted to share, and this is later in a couple more days. Eugene writes, "It is important that we let go of everything that does not serve our highest good." And this is about non-attachment, and that's what I was talking about, the attachment that we ascribe to love and the addiction. Hanging on to these things can keep us inwardly divided, which keeps us from moving forward. On one hand, we may say we have faith that we'll find our perfect partner, while at the same time we have the thought that no one will love us the way so-and-so used to. And when you do that, you're number one, you're believing in duality, and you're living in the past, not in the present. You're giving your power back. You're not fully present with the person in front of you. You're divided. So we must release the thoughts of not being loved in that way anyone has loved us before. It's a brand new experience. We truly do not know what's going to happen in this next moment of our life. So in love, you truly do not even know the person you're in love with, in relationship with. You truly do not know what's going to happen in the next moment. But if you're open to the miracle of life and a positive creative thought, think of what you can create. In here, he also talks about something else. Love leads the way, which I particularly like, because what it talks about is some things many of us deal with. When we have a challenge and an opportunity that presents itself in our life, which is not the way we wrote the script, that wasn't in the script I gave you, because we do invite all the actors into our life. We cast the demons and the saints. They all play a role. But in every experience, there is a goodness in it, even when we cannot see it. And if we let go of our judgment and our attachment to it, then we know what Ernest Holmes talked about is love leads the way, and the law makes the way possible. The law I'm talking about is the natural law of attraction. So what he writes about is, now is the time for us to recognize that love is so much more than sentimentality. You know the word I mean. Love is the power that heals. Love never fails. We are not speaking of a conditional love. Oh no, we are talking about a love that loves no matter what. This is unconditional love. I was reminded when I was preparing this and reading this, and I was thinking, my best example of unconditional love is my son. As a teenager, I after my divorce, my son, he came to live with me, and there was a minor adjustment, and he was 13 and 14. And I don't know if you ever had many 13 or 14-year-olds, but they vacillate between knowing it all and knowing nothing. And he had a mouth to go with it. But I loved him through all of it. I always tried to rise to the occasion. Sometimes I did it in a really bad way. There was no book. I did the best I could at times, and sometimes I did it really well, and sometimes I did it really poor. But what I knew about is somewhere along the way I read a quote that says, "I love you, I just don't like you very much right now." And that was true in my relationship. I always loved him. Sometimes his actions just drove me crazy. And as a parent, I really tried to show him a better way, and he wasn't always receptive. But that to me is unconditional love. And if we have unconditional love for our friends, I use our friends because sometimes we pick our friends who always agree with us. Sometimes we pick our friends who never say a bad thing to us. They'll never say, when you ask, "How do I look in this dress?" they'll never say, "You look fat." They just don't. Sometimes, though, we pick our friends where we have unconditional love, and sometimes they're so honest, brutally, it makes you gasp. But once you get over that, once you understand that it comes from love, and it's unconditional love, you look beyond it. And maybe it heals, because maybe you have a self-image that needs healing. Maybe they are the perfect angel in disguise, helping you with that further illumination, the alive, awake, and aware, the triple A of spirituality, alive, awake, and aware. It says, love does not deny that bad things happen. These experiences, when we allow it, can be infused with love. Here's the key. It all comes down to us. In order for us to have love, much as Vincent van Gogh said, and Vincent van Gogh, his quote is, "Love many things, for therein lies a true strength. And whoever loves much performs much and can accomplish much, and what is done in love is done well." So when we have things happen to us that stress us, challenge us, to love ourselves unconditionally means that no matter what we have done or not done, what we have said or not said, we love ourselves. So we start with ourselves. We love ourselves unconditionally, because when I love ourselves unconditionally, we become the role model to show us how to love others unconditionally, because we've dropped the judgment of ourselves. We've gotten honest and in integrity with ourselves of who we are, and we love ourselves anyway. So as we live from the space of love, we find love just indeed lead the way. So ask the question, what would love do in this situation? Thank you.